Hi friends, Lori Woods at Cuyamaca College. We're still reading Same Sun Here by Silas House and Neela Vishwani. Today we are going to start on page 142. We're going to read 142 to 151. So this is Dear River, so we know that Mina is writing this letter to River. And it's on December 5th, 2008. Dear River, I hope you are having a nice day. The weather here has been very cold. And then she takes her pen and she crosses that out because she doesn't feel that. It's hard to write this, but Miss Bloodsoul said I should get my feelings out. Daddy has died. So remember, Daddy is Mina's grandmother that lived in India. So this is very, very bad news for Mina. I have said it out loud 3 times, but this is the first time I've written it. Every night since we found out, I have dreamed of me and Daddy walking past Jabbercat up to the Flag Hill. We sit under the bonge trees and lean into each other, and we don't say anything. We watch the fog drift. I can hear her breathing, and I can smell the amla in her hair. Once in the dream, she laughed. She sounded like a little bird. When I woke up, I could still hear her laugh in my ears, and I felt happy. But then I remembered. She died on 20th of November, but we didn't find out until 23rd of November when my cousin Anjali called Daddy at work. She'd gone to see Daddy and found her lying on the floor with a fever. Daddy had been grinding corn, which is very hard work. She didn't recognize Anjali, kept calling her Mimi. Oh, River, she was looking for me. It's very sad. She was always there when I needed her. She always took care of me. Remember, we said Daddy was caring, even when my own parents and brother left and went to America. It was Daddy who loved me and fed me and made sure I was not alone. But I wasn't there for her when she needed me. I am feeling so bad. Poor Mina, she's so sad. It's such terrible news. Anjali took her to the Landor Hospital, but she needed medicines they didn't have. So Anjali hired a car for Dehradun. It is a very long drive to the city. Anjali said Daddy kept her face pressed against the window all the way down the valley. She was looking at the mountains. She was saying goodbye. At the hospital, Daddy went unconscious. Anjali held her on her lap because she didn't want to put her on the floor. Anjali is skinny like me. They sat like that for 7 hours, and Daddy died in Anjali's lap. And only then did the doctor came. He said Daddy had an infection that had gone into her heart. She was 58 years old. So not very old. 58's not very old. Poor Daddy. So Daddy was very sick. She held her, and the doctor only came after Daddy was already dead. I keep thinking about Gopi, our neighbor's cow. She is pretty, with a long white tail, and she is very spoiled. Every day she waits for Daddy at the corner of Char Dukan, and they walk together to Sister's Bazaar. She will not understand why Daddy doesn't come. She will be standing there, swishing her tail and waiting for Daddy. She will have to walk home alone. We were not able to go to the funeral. It is too much money for the plane, and we would not reach there in time because it's such a long journey. Poor Daddy is having a lot of trouble. We have not seen him yet, but when I talked to him on the phone, he could not stop crying. I have never heard him cry before. It scared me. Daddy is his mother. I cannot remember if I told you that before. Mom knew Daddy the whole of her life too. She was their next door neighbor, and Daddy was the one who encouraged Mom to be a teacher. She always said, teachers are the seed. But the thing that makes it harder for Mommy, Daddy, Kiku is that they have not seen Daddy in 9 years. I used to want to be a poet, but now I want to be a teacher. That is what Daddy wanted to do more than anything in the world. She learned reading and writing, but it made her sad that she couldn't do it as well as she cut grass or cooked or climbed a mountain. She said she would never be able to do it without thinking the way I did. One time when I got a bad grade at school, Daddy told me how much it hurt that she was not able to go to school as a child. All her brothers were allowed to go, but because she was a girl, her father said that she didn't need to learn. She went with her mother into the forest and worked. She used to try to read her brother's books, but she could not understand them. Once when Daddy was pregnant with my uncle, a man cheated her out of 300 rupees, like $300. The man took her money and gave her a piece of paper. He said it was a prescription that would make her baby strong. But when she brought the paper to the pharmacy, they said it wasn't real. All the paper said was, "This woman is stupid." Oof. Daddy had kept that paper all those years, and she showed it to me. She said she was cheated because she could not read or write. She said she did not want something like that to happen to me. I have never gotten a bad grade since she told me that. Right? So Daddy knew how important it was to be educated so that you could have a good life. So Mina listened to her grandmother. I am angry. For many days I was sad, but now I'm angry. I am angry at Anjali for only visiting Daddy once a week. I'm angry at Landhor Hospital for not having medicine. I'm angry at Mommy Daddy for moving to New York. I'm angry at New York for being a place people want to come to. I'm angry that Daddy died in a city waiting for a doctor. I'm angry at myself. I knew something was wrong when she didn't write a letter that week. She must have been sick then. I should have asked to borrow Mrs. Lau's phone. I should have called Anjali then. There's something terrible trapped inside me. I think if I open my mouth to say anything, even hello, that terrible thing will come out. So I have not been talking. Nobody has. We are all sad and quiet. Mom called in sick to work for 2 days, and Kiku stayed home from school to be with her. She hasn't eaten anything but grapes and crackers. When I came home from school the other day, she was in bed, staring into space, holding a cup of tea. The tea was completely cold. She must have been sitting like that for a long time. So all of Mina's family is very sad that Dottie is dead. I feel like a different person. I guess anger and sadness are things that settle into your bones and become part of you. I am still wearing my watch set to India time. I will never take it off. December 8th, 2008. And this is still Mina writing. Page 147. It is 3 days later. This afternoon, when Mom came home from work, she called Daddy. On Mondays, Daddy's shift doesn't start till late, so he and Mom have a chat. I made Mom a cup of tea, and she sat in bed under the covers, and she and Daddy told stories back and forth about Daddy and what she was like when they were young. Kiku wasn't home yet, and I got so sad listening to Mom's side of the conversation. I wanted to hide, but there's no place to be alone in this city. It's not like home where you can walk out into the trees. I know you will say this is weird, but I will tell you about it anyways. I went into the closet by the front door and I sat on the floor. I don't know how long I sat in there, but when Kiku came home, he opened the closet door and found me. He looked down at me and sucked in his breath like he'd been punched in the stomach. Then he shook his head and took my coat off the hanger and held it out for me to put my arms through. He said, "Come on, I'll show you something." We walked east on Delancey, past the men selling Christmas trees and the Golden Chariot Bakery and the boutique that sells winter booties for dogs. So they sell shoes for dogs for the winter time. It was so cold, we could see our breath in the air. When we got to the F train, Kiku put me through on his Metro card. I followed him into the downtown side. It was about 6 p.m. rush hour, so it was really crowded. So they went down into the crowded subways. I stopped walking near the benches because there was a woman playing the trumpet. But Kiku said, "Keep going," and took my hand and pulled me farther down the platform. We had to squeeze around people and we kept getting separated. And finally, Kiku picked me up and carried me because it was easier that way. Normally, I would be embarrassed, but today I didn't care. I put my head on his shoulder and closed my eyes and listened to the trumpet. I don't know what song it was, but it matched the feeling in my heart. Kiku kept walking until they were at the very end of the platform next to the little red traffic light at the mouth of the dark tunnel. Then he put me down. I had never been to the end of the platform before. It always looked so far away and scary. We could still hear the trumpet. We watched a rat running on the tracks. We looked across the platform at the people waiting on the uptown side. The trumpet kept playing. After a while, we saw two big headlights of the subway far down the tunnel, like yellow eyes in the darkness. Everyone on the platform who was sitting stood up. Everyone who was standing moved closer to the track. The train is coming. The sad trumpet kept playing. Kiku put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Just watch me and do what I do, okay?" I felt like something crazy was about to happen. The lights of the train got closer and brighter, and then the tracks began to rattle, and all of a sudden we could hear the train. The sound got louder and louder, and it swallowed the song of the trumpet. And then the train came roaring into the station. I could feel the wind of it, so hot and smelling of old nickels and quarters. And I looked at Kiku, and he looked at me. And then he opened his mouth really wide and squeezed his eyes shut and started screaming. I couldn't hear him. I couldn't hear anything but the subway. But I could see that he was screaming as hard as he could. The veins on his forehead popped out, and there was tears coming from his eyes. So I started screaming too, as hard as I could. I couldn't hear myself, but I could feel that terrible thing inside me coming out. I kept screaming and screaming, and the train flew by, the cars blinking so fast, and all I heard was the subway and its roar. So Kiku took her someplace where she could really feel her emotions and scream, "Ah!" really loud, because she was so angry and sad inside. She felt like she had something terrible inside. She needed to get it out. And Kiku, he knew this. We screamed until the subway slowed down and got quiet and stopped. Then the doors opened and the people inside rushed out and the people outside rushed in, and the doors closed back up and the train pulled away. Me and Kiku stayed where we were and screamed at the next 4 trains that came into the station. Not a single person heard us. It felt good, and we both lost our voices. Poor Mom thinks we have caught a cold. She has dark circles under her eyes. I'm going to make her some of Daddy's pakoras tomorrow. I hope she will eat them. So Kiku has figured out a way to be alone in the city. All you have to do is stand at the end of the subway platform and scream as the train comes into the station. I think some of my anger is gone. I keep thinking about it hanging in the air above the F train platform. I hope it doesn't go inside anyone else. Before I got in bed tonight, I gave Kiku a big hug. He is just like Daddy in his kindness, but he does it in his own Kiku way. Today in history, Mr. Orff, her history teacher, was talking about the New Deal and how if FDR had waited even one more day to start it, many more people would have starved to death and suffered. He said, don't forget that every moment counts. When he said that, I thought about Daddy. I wish I could just have one more moment with her. I miss her hands. I miss the gap between her two front teeth. I miss the way her knees creak in the morning. I miss everything about her. You have not written in so long that I think you do not want to be friends with someone who commits perjury. Maybe you're not writing because something is wrong in your life. I hope not. And I hope you hug your mama extra tight tonight. Bye, Mina. So that's the end of page 151. And I think this letter and River's last letter that we just read, let's see, what day was that letter? December 7th. And so I think those letters crossed in the mail. So Mina hadn't gotten River's letter yet that talked about his mom being in the hospital. Okay, I will see you soon.